The fall 2020 season's about to end. How's the season been treating you? Got a definitive top 10 list already? As we've often learned from anime, all it takes is one episode should be watching or stuff that I find excellent this season. I'll give you my list of fights. Because everyone loves anime fights, right? Right? The views on some of my videos speak for themselves, and I'm here driven to give you guys what you want, so without further ado, here's my personal list of the best fights this season has to offer. Let's start off with a quickie from Danmachi's ongoing season, Ice vs Asterius.
Tempest. Ariel.
Ice has consistently been one of my favorite Danmachi characters ever since her introduction. With that in mind, more Ice screen time that shows us how cool and badass she is always a win in my book. Well, in episode 8 of Danmachi's new season, we get to see some of her better stuff as she takes on Asterius. Ice holds her own with her flashy techniques, and we actually see some impressive shots in between some admittedly spotty animation. Still, the sequence of events still gave me a good feel for the atmosphere, and I found myself caught up following the action. For a short skirmish, the fight was good, and I think that it can be one of the good ones of this season. Overall, I like what I saw, but I think I might be biased, and the fight itself is a quickie with a rather inconclusive ending, and that's why it just finds itself at number 10 on this list. We then proceed with Iska and Alice's first fight together in Kimisen. Who doesn't like a good old battle couple? I just enjoy the chemistry between Iska and Alice. It's an awkward relationship given the Romeo and Juliet nature of the setting, but they just work so well together. Their first major challenge comes from someone who's not a slouch too, a powerful ancestor of the witch race. The two find themselves in a bind early on, being outmatched by the sheer power of the founder. However, the strongest power doesn't come from individuals, but from hearts united and fighting as one. It's a pretty cliche Aesop and all, but I just can't help but have a soft spot for it. For how much I love the two main characters, the fight itself finds itself just near the bottom of the top 10 list. It's a fight that becomes a lot better based on the context and the showcase of powers, but the actual fight doesn't blow anyone out of the water. Up next, we have Tatsuya taking on the USNA forces and Lina. When looking at fights, it's really hard to grade Gojo fights by the result or the stakes because we all know he's going to come out on top most of the time. I mean, look at it this way. We have quite a literal anime Jesus on our hands, so I just end up laughing whenever I see these Americans scheming to beat him. While Tatsuya fights typically lack tension, they often make up for it with impressive choreography and animation, and such can be seen in episode 7 of Mahoka's second season. There's just something so sweet seeing him break down and dissect all futile attempts by those pesky Americans, capping off with a second showdown against Lina, now armed with a brand new weapon. Sorry everyone, no one trumps Tatsuya. The fight did give us though a badass visual of Tatsuya putting his gun right in front of Brionac en route to the easy victory. Fire Force for me has always been a treat to watch because of its animation. Ever since season 1, it had its fair share of moments and battles that are just awesome. The second season's no exception to that, and I think that my favourite one so far is the Flame Infernal Nadaku fight in episode 16. For me, ensemble fights versus some gaiju thing are good if they can show the teamwork and how the characters work together. This one has tension, but that's not all ensemble versus gaiju fights are to be judged with. For me, they work best if the stakes are upped and the goal's not just to beat some big scary thing, but to fight it with a certain level of care, and in this case the goal of rescuing Nadaku. We also got a backstory after this battle that I really enjoyed. This one's a nice marker to a key moment of an arc in my opinion. Somewhere near the bottom half of the list seems fine, as I find it one of the best battles the season has to offer. King's Avatar is a weird series. Not weird in terms of the actual content, but for all the fanfare it had thanks to word of mouth, the series has quite fallen into obscurity with its movie and second season. As I've often said, I find that quite regretful because if anything, the current season's been picking up where the first one left off in terms of fight excellence. And an example of that would be Yishu's duel against Huang in the season's 4th episode. It's a very engaging fight that sees two in peak form duking it out. It's not just a duel of power, however, and it comes down to speed and technique. I've played some intense duels of my own in video games, and this battle just shows some of the best parts of those. The reflexes, the resourcefulness, and all those things that you need to come out on top. This fight evoked those emotions, and I find myself enjoying it a lot because of that. Burn the Witch may be a one-time deal as of now, but it did give us some good action in the form of its final fight. When I look at its current reception, I think that Burn the Witch has become quite underrated. Maybe it's exactly because of the fact that it's a one-and-done movie that doesn't really have much in the way of setting up the world, but as far as its presentation of a Bleach-verse take on a world like Harry Potter, it's a fun movie that I think does deserve a watch. And it ends with a good fight that gives me some flashbacks of the good old Bleach days with the pretty obvious Grimmjow tribute character and our two protagonists fighting one of the legendary dragons. It's really an uphill battle, and I find myself at the edge of my seat anticipating what the characters can do to get out of this bind. At least we get to see what our girls can do, but no way can people like them take out one of the legendary dragons, right? Well, turns out that Uncle's a lot stronger than we all thought. Overall, it's a fight that's carried by the talk and the story developments that happen in the middle of it instead of the choreography. I think it's the perfect ending for a standalone movie like what they're going for with Burn the Witch. Akudama Drive has blown up quite a bit these past weeks now, hasn't it? I wouldn't say it was at the bottom of the popularity rankings when the season started, but it did seem to take quite a backseat to the harder hitters of the season from various genres. Not anymore, and I think this fight has a lot to do with it. If there's a surprise of the season in terms of how intense and action-packed its fight scenes can be, it has to be Akudama Drive. I mean, it really seemed edgy at first glance, but I didn't expect something like this. A fight that blew me away in surprise. Given how everyone reacted, I don't think that I'm alone here. It's such a badass fight that I can't help but hop onto the hype train for the episodes to come. Here's something a bit nostalgic. Boruto's 175th episode proud. Not quite topping the list, but a fight that I'd be inclined to put on top would be Gojo versus Jogo. The fight that caused the internet to explode. Gojo has a serious case of being the season's most overpowered and awesome mentor character, and this fight showcases him at his best as far as what we have in anime form. After seemingly getting overwhelmed and having his ass handed to him, Gojo decides that playtime is over, and when he says so, he means it. The blindfold comes off and we get a look at his stylish and handsome face before he proceeds to rip Jogo a new one. Literally. Such a stylish display capped off with such a decisive finish. I think if I was to make you vote, this fight would probably shoot its way up to the #1 spot. I did give it some serious consideration too, and I think that the next one barely edges this one out as it wasn't as one-sided. Below milestones.